Welcome back to the Narwhog. Today, I'm interviewing Joyce White, who is my grandmother, my Mamaw.
Ba-dum ba-dum, ba-dum ba-dum, ba-dum 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 ba-dum. The Narwhog!
Recently, I've hung a couple of her quilts on display in the Sea Hall. In honor of that, I would like to interview you for just a moment and talk about your quilt making. My grandmother has made many absolutely beautiful quilts, and she also makes the best mandarin orange cake ever. So, anyway, welcome to the Narwhog.
Thank you,
Yes.
Thank you.
So, tell me a little bit about your quilt making experience.
I've been quilting for a long time, but when our first great-grandchild was due, my granddaughter saw a picture of a baby quilt in a magazine, and she asked me if I could make it. And that started the great-grandchildren quilts, and I've made one for everyone since then.
And how many great-grandchildren do you have?
18.
18. But not only have you made a quilt for each of your great-grandchildren, but you've made several others on other occasions as well. We had a quilt show for you. Was that last year? It was pretty amazing to see how many quilts were on display at the show.
Now and then, someone comes up with a crazy idea, and it's usually Tim. It's fun to do his crazy quilts for him.
The first quilt that I came up with was the Norse mythology quilt. It was for my second child, for Martin. And you had made a quilt for us for Henry, this beautiful quilt with pea pods on it. And so I had the idea that for my second child, we could make a Norse mythology quilt. But then my wife wanted another pea pod quilt to match the first one, and so I designed it and thought it would never happen. But I showed Mamaw the design anyway, and you made it for me, and it's absolutely gorgeous. And now it's hanging up in the Sea Hall.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah. And the second one was you made for me for Christmas.
Yes.
And that one was a monkey quilt based on the story Journey to the West. You actually read the story American Born Chinese. Did you read some of Monkey?
Yes.
Tell us your thoughts about that.
Well, I had no idea what I was reading. But it was pretty crazy and pretty interesting, and that's Tim for you.
Well, thank you. Would you mind telling us some of the cool ideas that you've had for quilts in the past?
When Tim's mother was going off to Harding University, back when she was in high school, it was when the double knit fabric was very popular. So all the dresses I would make for her were the double knit fabric, and so I took all those pieces and made her a quilt to take to Harding. And then, how many years ago was that? A long time ago. Then,
she graduated in, what, 78 or 79?
Tim's sister became a missionary in Honduras, and she took that quilt down there with her. And so it's been in Honduras and then back to Signal Mountain, and it's been up in New Hampshire where they lived when they first got married. And it's kind of traveled around all over, so I thought that was interesting. And polyester never wears out. So it looks about the same as it always did.
Oh yeah, I always remember that quilt from childhood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's about the first one. The one I'm working on right now, another grandson's wife showed me a picture on her phone of a world map quilt.
Oh wow. How's that laid out?
So it's all on a blue background because that's the ocean, the water. And I realized once I started doing it that the world is kind of a broad thing across the middle. So I thought at the top I would do, in the space up there, I would do a map of the United States. And then at the bottom, I would put the states that meant something to them. Like the first state would be Arkansas, where they met. And the second one would be Georgia, where they got married. And the third one along the bottom would be Alabama, because that's where they lived when their first two children were born.
Okay.
And now they're back in Tennessee, and so fortunately, Tennessee's a long strip I can put right underneath those.
Okay. Very
so
neat.
that's what that will be
Very
like.
Neat. There's a lot of symbolism that goes into quilt making.
Yes.
It's sort of like telling a story or quoting a poem. It captures a lot of ideas.
Brisa had the butterfly quilt because she was born in Costa Rica, and they have such bright colors down there, so I did that in really bright
Yes.
red and bright colors. And then this is Miguel, and he was the first one of Rachel's to be born in the United
That's right.
States. So we did a United States thing. And Daniel always liked the turtles, so we did his first little boy in the turtles.
So in our family, you are known as the most amazing seamstress and the person who can fix and make anything. And every, I know that, but every time I see something new that you've created, I'm absolutely amazed by it.
Well, thank you.
But Papa likes to tell a story about one of your first sewing experiences.
Oh yes.
Would you like to share that, since it's
Well, my mother
entertaining?
was a very good seamstress. She made all of our clothes, and she just made everything. But I wasn't really interested in sewing when I was growing up. So when I got married, I didn't really have much experience at sewing, and my husband had got promoted to sergeant, and so he came home with the stripes for me to sew on his sleeve. And so I sewed them on very, very neatly, and then he started to try it on, and I had sewn the sleeve together, so I had to start all over again.
So he couldn't even put his arm through his
He
sleeves.
couldn't even put his arm
So
in.
closed. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you so much for showing us your beautiful work, and I'm so happy to have some of it on display at school for my students,
thank you.
and to be able to not only enjoy all the cool, weird quilts that you made for me, but to be able to teach my students through them. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
See you later. Click on Monkey to subscribe. Click on Pigsy to watch the next video. Click on Sandy to watch the previous video. Or click on Tripitaka, and you can learn more about Journey to the West and Monkey.